Hey everybody, this is Rich Millett, Quarantine Streams, the 45th one. Um, Hope you enjoyed our opening acts, Luke Peabody. You might not have enjoyed him, but I'm sure that you loved Stickers, uh, who are extremely promising. Luke is too, but he'll be even, I know he's a good looking chap, but uh, he'll be even more impressive when you can fucking hear him someday. Maybe week three will be the charm. You never know. All right, let us begin things with the quarantine stream theme, shall we? Beautiful. Have we been broadcasting for 10 fucking minutes? This business, I'll tell you, it's very confounding. I don't understand how all this stuff works. Very strange. Okay, so it looks like we're good. All right, this is from the new book. The new book, of course, is called Apples and Ice, swimming together in soapy water, and you can find it out there. I'm not some shill. Uh, this is called Dance the Night Away. I'm an artiste, not a shill. A blue wave sprayed gently onto the window. It remained an unfaded crescent reaching over the rooftop. Birds flew through untethered. Droplets yawned in sonorous applause. The shape succumbed, giving way by matching passing movements, as when water splashes in the sky. A maypole stands unraveled, while a sunfish kisses a butterfly. The fences were then a canvas, soaked tissue paper sprung over electrical wires, fragile forktails freshly shaven, as bronze tiger beetles glanced up at the heavens. Dance the night away! We doing okay out there? Beautiful. That's what we like to see. This is dedicated to, well, I actually don't feel like doing a specific dedication. We'll just let it go as is. Should be obvious anyway, right? It's called Milky Skies. Excuse me. Disgusting. Unprofessional. For 3 weeks, I've seen the sky as one color stretched over a muted spectrum, and I've heard tiny handbells clang at irregular intervals. Without forethought, I was in a state of unstable concentration, with my sense of decency tested. I stared at celeste-colored veins and remembered how they were made. I was reminded of the worm, thankful to be placed back in the dirt after suffering a 2-inch gash on its side from careless shoveling. The youngest lady stops weeping and waiting and steps into invisibility, her velvet-lined pockets filled with small wreaths of braided blue stems. While embarrassed at how much she once admired her mother's brooches, she now fully blushes at her wish to own an ocean full of stone. Her friends repeatedly requested questions only furthers her hesitation, so she leaves a small note of explanation. Life is grossly inelegant in its demands that one must impatiently forget chores performed with red impressions left intact from knots affixed to ankles and wrists as if the sores had never existed. Shock of copper curls, cerulean halos in his eyes, considers his environment and with his shoulders pinned back, adjusts his balance and stands straight up in his raft. The one idea that has possessed him so vanishes out from his mind, pierces the sea, then its velocity escapes gravity and reaches way past the sky. But he fears no lack of purpose, or whether this time has been meaningless. He has total devotion to the base truth of his vocation. His ankles give way as he falls back gently, lands on his hands while some water splashes in. He considers those who would deride his actions and thinks, I don't require any clothes. I'd rather remain naked for everyone. I felt watched when I first voluntarily gave away confidential information, then tried to explain the layout of San Antonio to a stranger who never knew I'd never been there before. And now, as minutes become limitless, any vows I made always sustained me. I felt watched when my thinking was clean and capable of strict reasoning, and I rode along freshly painted runways, left notes on license plates, brambles, and high chairs. And now, as lassitude disintegrates, any vows I made remain unchanged. I felt watched when my legs were bathed in a heat as persistent and unruly as a bat taunting a seal, repeatedly landing on its shoulder and squealing. And now, as fury impassively fades, any vows I made could never break. I felt watched when I attended 10 drawing classes and attempted to finish a full circle freehand without any interference between thought and motion. And now that my hands are patient, any vows I made are everything. Here she flies! Here she flies! And now we know if the promises made more than 10 years ago have been kept. Here she flies! Here she flies! With 2 pens, rosary, brass paperweight, earrings, locket, and measurements written out on a business card. Here she flies, gums and hair receded, a miniature brace for a baby, wrapped in grayed, hardened plastic. Here she flies with an oxygen tank bubbling ceaselessly, a UHF channel on the television showing an old western silently. Here she flies while I stand with tentative confirmation, a glass of thickened water, and 3 empty white boxes. Here she flies, with skin like marble over winding staircases, and rooms with seafoam-colored walls and intimidating machinery. I hope you're all doing okay out there. We're going to go on a weird little voyage. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. I think we're going to maybe get into some weird cracks and crevices tonight. We'll see. Maybe we won't. It's called May. Get it together. Get it yourself. The feelings you had linger for months. Under the ground, garden life albatross, she bleeds all over me. I say ball and chain in simple words. Idealization, affiliation, detoxification, menstruation. Dirt in the coffin, she's bleeding on the flower stems. Up in the air, salivating tissue. Under the ground, dirt on the nails, bleeding again. Extend a hand in loving help, but maybe you should just kill yourself. This is called Investigating Mitsy. It's from the new book. She rides around the merry-go-round wearing satin slippers, chewing pink peppercorns. Her eyes are a miracle in the way they paint names in the minds of the rain clouds. The lightning reaches out to introduce itself. The Queen of Atlantis draws filigree for the king while he's taking his bath. Bristling lips kiss the teeth of the key ring and lick ankles and math. She holds a bouquet of clarinets, wearing a lavender herringbone robe and nodding at buckets of soap. Her elbows hold her weight on the sand dune decorated with still wet seashells and teacups half filled with a treacle she pours onto tree roots. The Queen of Atlantis plans where the French and English will meet. The king eats suckling pig and excites the court over soaking his feet. It's called Corsage. I've been waiting. It's been too long. But now you're here, and I don't want to waste any more time. An invitation, a collage reality, gilded curtains, blue carpets, singed rose thorn blood. Apples and lasagna swathed over your stomach. Sometimes I miss you, sometimes you hate me. Boiling and dark, searing in rhinestones, X-ray angel, melting crucifixes, smiling faces. It's so easy to forget everyone. It's so easy to adore you. This is called You Deserve Nothing. Laughing hands scrape an empty plate, grasping for invisible veins, wearing a sodden jacket with sagging pockets, weary with the weight of wet sand, thinning hair gathered to protect what isn't there, and still laughing to distract from stepping on the ashes of the ticket matted into the tile, laughing, still laughing, to distract from the chiming music boxes that you've forgotten. You leap around on tightropes left slack. You only drink water from your flask. Thinning hair, a cigarette hole burned through your mask. Thinning hair, bruised thumbs playing games of chance. Laughing that plays as muted rumbling while you try jumping, rotted wood blocking your path. Laughter that echoes in the vast nothing off your charred promises and wasted hopes. What do you see when you close your eyes? How are we doing out there? Okay, beautiful. It's called I Got Away Alive and Sane. I've been living like the whole FBI died in a Kool-Aid mistake. I've been keeping a time bomb in my shoes so I know that my watch is correct. I got a tiger by the tail waiting for it to end tomorrow. I've been up all night burning my bridges, making jokes about ex-friends' fetishes. I won't tell you to hold on or say you don't deserve what you get, and you certainly won't ever see me take the first step. I got a tiger by the tail waiting for it to end tomorrow. I got a floorboard in the garage. I've been overstimulated. I've been sore. I got away alive and sane. I didn't get strangled or stained. I got away alive and sane. It's called Pastiche. In the loaded corners of the station, it was mid-afternoon. Nobody gets better looking. I let the phone ring in soothing, languorous strokes against my eardrum. Cement marathons and meaningless chatter, not like crying, it's free, like childhood or a blowjob. More like TV with someone you can't stand, or an empty hotel room complimented and paid. You're an apocalyptic interpreter. I've been criticized, but my words don't get any stronger, and I'm bored all the time. For the little nuances of what I knew you were, and the French cigarettes, and you have nothing to say. With you, I tried too much sugar and not enough bitterness. I didn't know you were just Alistair Cook disguised in a sequin dress. But from being young, you just can't hide. And I should have seen your shotgun nerves. Come on now, I could easily bite out your eyes. But you're an easy target, and your mind is like bruised thighs. Your mom appeared to me like a science fiction pope, gliding across the carpet in an iodine muffler and a turtleneck full of jokes. Recently, she said I couldn't leave or feel solid rock, but the next sequel won't be so predictable or filled with filtered locks. How are we doing out there? Doing good? It's called I'm Dancing with the Skeleton Key. Actually, we're not going to do that one just now. This is Lazy Angels. Squat woman sealed in a shadow frock, trimmed in white, absence of light. Selling stories from her garden she demands are heard, but is greeted with the silence of the crowd's indifference. She doesn't already know that we can breathe and we can leave. She can't see that we already can walk through doors and open windows. Counterfeit prophet steals the locks, illegal son, zero as one. Selling pictures of her dinner her guards are obliged to buy, even as her art collection is vanishing until the walls have nothing left hanging. She doesn't already understand that we can perceive, that we can receive. She can't see that we can paint flowers with any colors that we can imagine, and we can imagine each of them. Their far and distant minds are trails best left behind. Sister to her father stops the drain under a rotting stage, 6-month wage, selling reports carefully whispered in hopes her wealthy relatives will let her sign their wills first. She doesn't already know that we are her, twice as much or more, a complete verse. She can't see the red and gold bird flying right above. She can't see that we are her, twice as much or more. She can't see that she hands her keys to a steed who gallops away, away into the orange rolling hills, away into the orange rolling hills, orange rolling hills, orange rolling hills, orange rolling hills. This is the political statement of the night. I'm told I'm naive for being a pacifist. Pacifism can't work, will never work. Is it naive to believe that human beings can live without the mutilation and destruction of each other? I don't think that's naive at all. I think it's naive to think that we can't make any progress, that we're stuck with our worst images, trapped by bloodlust, captured by the racism of nationalism, that will never improve, and that we are nothing but doomed. Someone who thinks that suffering is necessary is naive. Someone who thinks that war is in our spirit is naive. Someone who thinks that sometimes you have to kill is naive. It takes courage to not extract revenge. It takes courage to see through someone else's weakness. It takes courage to not blindly be led into being an executioner. It takes courage to know that human beings have no reason to kill each other, and that no situation calls for violence against another. this. Actually, no, we're still not going to do it. It's funny. We're going to do the brother sister. We're gonna do Jade, and then we're gonna do the Tide. Disgusting. This is called Jade. Winter went without finale. One brain with seagull emeralds and a chop of jade thicker than my wrist. Glancing became the transmission, like a doorbell whistling in a veterans parade. So behind the minute hand extends more than obligation and demands more than devotion. Passion is 10,000 tiny cuts, so untraceable they dye emotions without ever gracing the surface. Lightning travels celebrations and standing full face towards the stark light and thin wire sword play. Who's been saying in this bed? No one without articulation, tempo, and psychic extrapolative hysterics. At the break, I am pacing, ignorant to stillness, shattering shins, pushing flagpoles out of the fields, locking engines to mortar, and blushing with inevitable glory leave. And this is the tide. Swimming through the rising tide. Eyes, 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 eyes. We love you, Gio, Diane, Momo, Nyan, Jungyeon, Jaeyoung, Sui, Mina. Come on now, Richard. And Sana. Yes, Eve, on the limestone madrigal entrance. The wind stormed around the asthma liquids and the flying cost of yen. The fur was melting in an envelope, lime green irises bobbing in the water. Trying to pry through the quarantine line. Topics of conversation overheard. Rusting park, yellow chutes, and chipped lacquer. Birds landing on Mount Fuji. A dulcimer was plucked, floodneck papers rising and collected. Outside, crisp rings of flickering crossing change. Numbers assigned in a fetal hotel. Slow motion time to diagonal lights and backwards directionals. Ceremonial silver displayed. Cold crux of current torn by rain and smog filling ditches. Spear thrown into the branch. Limestone posts built on the marsh. Letters sent with smeared ink, walking through masks for photographs. The motorcade wasn't noticed. Flipped cigarette, punctured wrist. The tide stretched over itself. And this is called Everyone. Too late in the evening, 7:45. That man around the corner lost his ring in a fight. Here comes St. Thomas walking through the door, found himself an auction, bought everything on the floor. I don't wake up too early, I don't cut my face, I don't call any strangers, and I don't go looking for their graves. Everyone gets half of what they want and half of what they don't, half of what they couldn't and half of what they won't. Pork chops in the kitchen, above the sink there's a light, no milk on the table for the blink of an eye. Up the road is a driveway where they come out paid. Yeah, they come out smiling, dead cats in their way. Everyone gets half of what they want and half of what they don't. Half of what they couldn't and half of what they won't. And this is from the new book. It's called Parallel Place. I live in a parallel place where the land is level, where the streets are bright in the evenings, and I know what tomorrow brings. I live in a parallel place where the wind is cold, where gray-haired men sweep the bandshell and foxes sleep under church bells. I hear the lank-haired women walking in the morning, their faces shaped by the sun. I live in a parallel place where there's endless electricity with very low voltage, where everyone dies of old age. I live in a parallel place where rain runs into a tunnel, where able-bodied women clear the gutters and dragonflies rise in a slow-motion flutter. I see the able-bodied men hauling fallen branches, their faces shaded by the sun. I live in a parallel place where people speak in peace, where the foreman's spouse greets the mailman in a see-through blouse. I live in a parallel place where the forest faces east, where contracts are written in invisible ink and codes are created with a wink. I see all the people breathing through the day, their faces graced by the sun. Blissful cardinals, blissful infants, blue reflections magnified 10,000 times, blue beams bouncing off aged lenses, radiant artifacts, radiant heirlooms, white sails blistered by the salty sun, white china stacked up in cupboards, shining domes, shining necklaces, green feelings balanced on a yardstick, green parchment weighted down by grapes. How are we doing out there? Any requests? Now we are going to do Dancing with the Skeleton Key. I'm dancing with the skeleton key pinned under my belt the night after I had had two simultaneous dreams in ocular split screen, one where a white-tailed fawn galloped to the front door and another where my brother couldn't sleep. I'm dancing with the skeleton key tied on a twine cord around my neck, remembering when my sister was locked in a minivan and stranded in a parking lot outside of Austin. She kissed the windows and ate the tape left in the cassette deck. I'm dancing with the skeleton key in my unopened mouth tucked behind my wisdom teeth and obscured by my tongue. I have memories that my sister still won't believe, and I wish I could have edited the 20th century. It could have all been done so much better. I'm dancing with the skeleton key scotch taped to my arm. When I was in school, the vice principal gave himself a heart condition, trying to figure out who had stolen from the convenience store and then boasted about it on the blackboard. I'm dancing with the skeleton key in the grotto of a dilapidated Catholic church, where the priest once confessed to me that after each funeral he performed, the only way he could raise his spirits was by making uneasy music with the organist. I'm dancing with the skeleton key, concealed in an alley while bells chime at midnight near the railroad, and kids with no curfew dodge between dashing headlights on their way to play hide-and-seek in the park. I'm dancing with the skeleton key laid on the floor of a garage while my brother draws out diagrams on poster boards, connecting lines from consequences of thoughts to isolated islands of thinking divided by unintended regressions of actions. I'm dancing with the skeleton key while I am safe at at home, looking at sealed bags of clothes that I stopped wearing years ago while I was running for mayor on an unconfirmed platform of leaking information about the governor. I'm dancing with the skeleton key in an adjacent office because the evidence my brother uncovered just got delivered to the lawyer, and he predicts that it will make the judge jump and remove any condemnation from his mouth. I'm dancing with the skeleton key in a strip mall that used to be a swimming pool, and before that a man-made hill that covered demilitarized waste trucked over from a Floridian base, and it will still take 100,000 years before any of this reaches its half-life. I'm dancing with the skeleton key clasped tightly in my hand as I watch my sister in the mirror speaking sentences using only one word and plant orchids next to power lines in the backyard. Then she dots the driveway with empty jars to more accurately measure the rainfall. I'm dancing with the skeleton key, my pocket moving loosely with me. My brother used to cry bitterly to our parents every time he got a ticket, refuting each offense, denying that he had done any of it. I'm dancing with the skeleton key, sliding uncomfortably in my shoe, but the nuisance helps give me the presence of mind to always hold up what I was taught, that when the rent is due, it's better to be full and well slept than to just hand over a blank check. I'm dancing with the skeleton key pressed into a book, watching leaves in the wind, and a novelist at a press conference performing fake sign language, hoping it will get him the attention he wants for trying to provide the printed word. This is a pretty old one. It's called Prostate of the Union. Well, it's been fourscore for you living in a sweet depression sanctuary of solitude. I laugh behind your back and call you a honky with an attitude because you fool yourself cohabitating in reality banality, too high on yourself to taste your own mortality. I'd love to slap you, but I'm just too sweet for brutality. My fairy fella friend wallows in Gen X apathy. He cuts his right hand just to see it bleed. He'll never realize life's more than his own room, you see, because he got soul down the river working from 8 till 3. Little lost soul coasting on puppy dog love, listening to wedding bells and chasing all the doves. Well, friend, open your eyes wide, because the girl screwing in the corner you picked for your bride, too warped with illusions to see that she lied, so go to a party and get your brain cells fried. So now I roll with the suburban poet god Moses, bought into it all and pricked himself on the roses, thought he was above the hype slang in the scene, woke up one day from his marijuana dream and spent the rest of his youth just trying to keep clean. What a waste, said the sheriff when he arrived at the scene. But her individuality came at a price, dyed the hair purple and tossed the social dice. Her floodlight parties were a big old smash, but lack of skater pants brought on a backlash. Now she sits there just like wet ash, garbling the words, where the hell's my stash? Now take a look at girlfriend sitting all on her own, got no one to call, don't even got a home, ripping off the talk and copping the look. Be sure to be cool and read all the right books. Dealing with the devils, trying to make some time, ain't got no thoughts, so she tries to leech mine. Sounds like a fool when she calls up and whines. And they'll all spend their lives standing in checkout lines, and they fucking did. This is a poem about freedom. It has a bad word in it, so if you're offended by that sort of thing, jump off now. But the intelligent, wonderful people out there will know that usage of a word does not mean that you condone the word, condone the sentiment of the word, right? So we're all smart enough to understand these basic concepts, and I don't have to talk to you like you're a stupid baby. Right, beautiful. This is, like I said, as I said before, a poem about freedom. It's a very beautiful thing. Put your fucking hands on your hearts and look skyward, maybe. This is called I Never Run Out of Money. He got in the car just to drive away. It was 80s night on the radio, and he felt his eyelids quiver from the thoughts left behind them. He always wanted to go out with one of the older kids, and he sped past her house to remind himself that the whole thing wasn't fiction. He had to chew on tablets of ephedrine just to stay awake as he careened down a one-lane town. The clock read 2:14 a.m. Name another place where you don't have to worry about the cum on your coat from the guy in back of you, or the weekend in Boys Town where you lost all your money, where you can die for the 50 stars and still get reborn, where you can vomit on someone else's tonsils and still go home with them for the night. And you know that when you got a dime bag in your lap and you can drive the service entrance to paradise, it's not a privilege, it's a birthright. He was always fascinated by the kids who looked a few years older, who looked coked up by the age of 13. The news came from Washington. He had a fantasy that he kept kissing her on the forehead. Oliver North had been acquitted and Fawn Hall wasn't to blame, just like when they arrested Manuel Noriega because he wouldn't pay cash for all the shipping costs for his cocaine. He pulled into the Super K for some Coca-Cola and saluted the limp American flag on the way in. Rolling Stone had Bruce Springsteen on the cover, and he felt like he had razor blades inside his stomach. Somehow everyone felt let down by the Gulf War. It wasn't as bloody as My Lai. It wasn't as funny as Grenada. And gooks weren't bombed in the process. The commodities and golden parachutes kept all the middle management well liquored up by the time Bush was giving his resignation speech. Voodoo economics and the crack epidemic sometimes made you wish that Nixon had been right all along. But this never seemed to bother him, and the national debt never meant shit to any decent citizens, especially not the kids who saw Heathers when it was still in the theaters. He got off the phone with one of his friends who complained that crack smoking was just a cheap, quote-unquote, ghetto high. The erythromycin was fucking up his liver, but at least it kept the acne off. He read a book about Charles Manson and figured the only difference between him and Nixon was a few years in jail and a copy of the White Album. But still, the thought of Squeaky or Sadie dressed all up in their black capes, creepy crawling into someone's house, was still freaky enough to keep him sleeping out there on the couch. That night, he had a horrible dream. Eric Estrada was hosting a beauty pageant at the Playboy Mansion, featuring categories like worst facelift and most fucked up tit job. But before he could walk away from the spectacle of it all he could do was slug down a bottle of Thunderbird and cradle a hard-on while slobbering, "I do believe I'm ready for the Playboy Mansion. I want to see Hef! Open up those goddamn gates!" He woke up before the former First Lady wet t-shirt contest and ran to his car in horror. He flicked on the ignition and forced in a homemade tape, and while everybody wants to rule the world leaked out, he thought about how much he hated those old political arguments. He heard that individuals are symptomatic of a sicker society. He came upon Super K, the great beacon for people who are lonely and cheap, and admired its neon beauty against the black backdropped sky. He was looking sideways and feeling sick about what was smothering the rest of the land. Strip mall upon strip mall, grids and rows of anonymous stores. He thought about how all this used to be a beautiful forest, and how disgusting it was that every developer was using their own lunch hooks to get a portion of the profits. He felt his stomach tighten from the thought of another obese teen selling Swatch watches and sunglasses, but then he turned his head forward, away from the strip mall, and saw nothing but outstretched lanes of tree branches and unpainted roads, and he knew that he was finally getting ready to go home. This is from the new book. This is called Should I Go In? Excuse me. The silver peppermill whispers to the hammer that she's an airport. And though she never really shows anybody, I know that she is an airport. If you stop at her coffee shop, she'll charge you extra for a plastic top. The well-water ice cubes have heard this tale told before, but she's an airport. A zebra's chewing gum can still confirm the reports that she's an airport. If you take off your shoes after the security stop, she'll throw them in the air and they'll land in the baggage cart. Run down the runway into the center of the day where the sun is pointing down to the ground. Reach all the way down to touch your toes and remember a story you'll want to pass along someday. Run down the runway into the center of the day where the sun is pointing to the ground. Reach all the way down to touch your toes and remember a story you'll want to pass along someday. She's an airport and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective baubles. Cessna tropria dina retraf saya mraf delif tuku nrock sklats retam saidnak rot calf gninips evet kelfer selbuab. She's an airport and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective baubles. She's an airport and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective baubles. Every color candy. If I could talk to Wilsmore and Just like in today's world of opinion and denunciation and admirable like in pictures and friendliness and outward inliness, maybe I'm on the thrust of that. She dreamed she was a train draped in robin's egg lace. She couldn't keep still in one place. She dreamed she was the only train running on the 4th of July, filled with whipped cream to burst and streamers to fly. She dreamed she was a train running past the impound lot. And after every platform on the route, she'd whisper, I still love Phil. And she really does, because to know him is to love him, and to know him through his art is the most profound and most important way to know him. The action and inspiration is endless. It is infinity. She was sad when they closed the gates at night. She dreamed she was a train filled with die-cast metal engines and cowboy hats, ordered by the civil rights worker's favorite daughter. She dreamed she was a train, her earrings flashing orange lights. She waves hello to the one car she'd stopped at the tiny suburban crossing. A train to get the tracks loose and rattling. Rattling tracks reminds her of those aunts and uncles talking over each other at her grandma's birthday. Rattling tracks reminds her of those uncles and aunts talking over each other. People with names like Buster, aunts and uncles whose names she doesn't remember, that her very own parents don't remember or can't agree on. They suck on their dentures, making loud noises trying to keep them held in place while they argue about the price of grapes or the different routes they took to get there that day, or what's going to happen next in northern Indiana, or how much taxes are, or if the name Ed Muskie is hilarious and very funny. Rattling tracks reminds her of those aunts and uncles talking over each other at her grandma's birthday. Birthday. Birthday! How are we doing out there? Doing okay? Beautiful. This is a relatively newer one. This is Canary Milk. Sweltering sun in the forecast, but it's raining right now. Retired teens nostalgic for holograms as their granddads watch rocks roll on the ground and wonder when they can be farmers in glass pods on Mars. While Amanda eats factory fresh candies and laughs jaggedly at vulgar stories. The boy who awoke in the toy aisle one evening moved more elegantly than his mother had ever seen as he picked items off a worn, well-folded list before deciding he'd rather have a pet eel instead, while Amanda watches her neighbors bickering and daydreams deleted scenes from their past. The delivery man is ready for the weekend as he ignores reports on the European heat wave, instead marveling about the new house on his route and how much it must cost each month to keep the swans fed and the water in the lagoon fresh. While Amanda feels no urgency to call back her agency and laughs at people voluntarily photographing their chores. This is called Submerging. My thoughts stop, my muscles go slack. I sink into the gray water. I rise, pick up shells, and see something inside. I see a spotlight bathed in cream, a turtle swimming slowly, and bioluminescent plankton out past the reef. I am not a follower. I have nothing to prepare for. I am not the leader. I've got no form. At this moment, I'm no one's son, except for my father's father. My head stays underneath, no new oxygen, but for the time being, I've got all I need. I'm not the leader. I'm just being born. At this moment, I'm no one's son, except for my mother. The clouds, the sun, the land, the water. All is one. All is one. I have come. All is one. Open reach. All is one. To infinity. All is one. Circle soul. All is one. Bird's beak. All is one. Silver seed. All is one. We have come. It's called Windy Sequins. Through the missing bricks, you can see a banquet table with a candelabra crooked from water-falling wax. On the other side of the missing bricks is a tablecloth with faintly gray claw stains left by mourning doves. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table, heaving with indentations from apples, persimmons, cantaloupes, and pears. On the other side of the missing bricks, there is a deer walking in the distance, while a finger painting floats to the ground. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table with unopened telegrams and sturdy silver trays stacked with books about the Enlightenment. On the other side of the missing bricks, there is a pebble garden placed on a tree branch next to a mortar and pestle. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table, lined along the bottom right edge with bowls of cold dandelion soup. Seated 45 degrees away from the banquet table is a man with a salt and pepper waxed mustache humming waltzes. After complaining about the distortion of sounds and colors, 110 years old, and he doesn't know that electric blue can be beautiful too. How are we doing out there? Doing good? Oh, yeah. I was planning on reading one tonight. Forgot about it. It's terrible. I'm glad that I remembered. I hate during the week when I've forgotten to read something that I really wanted to. It's true pet peeve. Because there's no guarantee that the time will be right to do it again. This is from a collection I did back, 20 years ago now. It's called Extracts, and this is a piece. I've read this one. I think I've only read it once before. It's called Letters, and it went through a lot of different iterations. And I originally started writing it in '99. There was a book that never came out called Behind the Mirror or Beyond the Mirror. I think was going to change it to Beyond the Mirror because, if I'm being perfectly honest, Behind the Mirror sounded like Behind the Music, which was a pop culture phenomenon at the time. So I'm pretty sure that that's why I would have changed it, which is extremely silly. And I hate even talking about that. It's really annoying. But at any rate, this was going to be in that book, and by the time Extracts came out in the middle of 2001, I was starting to doubt whether the book would ever get finished. It never did. So I never had to deal with whether I was going to put out like a different version of this one, whether I was still going to include it or not. Um, but as it stands, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the one piece that came out from all of that writing. There was a lot of material that I worked on for that collection. So at any rate, this is called Letters. I heard the sadness. We're all afraid of our parents. Edit out the words and form the perfect sentence. Green and black down the center aisle. Folded, scalpel holding, and desperate. Light illuminating underneath the long form fitting x-ray. The novel name and the verses, tense shifting, and I see interlock, it compressed. Delete Dove's blood. He stopped communicating. Make the statement with fact and diction. And I will actually do something I almost never do. The line about the delete Dove's blood. That was I had this friend for many years, and I really don't know whatever happened to her. She stopped talking to me, and I understood why, because I had a tendency back then. If I needed to be somewhere like at 6, I wouldn't leave until 6, and she got really sick of me. I was a little hard to pin down, and anyway, I feel bad. What are you gonna do? It was a long time ago. At any rate, she had met with some like voodoo priestess to try to get a guy to like her, and she had to get into his apartment and leave Dove's blood in a corner of a room, and that would bring him to her. Which I don't fucking think it worked. So, oh well. This is Cheltenham Girl. Like a cloud, beautiful sound, standing before the signal. When the light shines on the ground, it reflects off the wheel. Parking lot next to the short building on the edge of the desert. She sees it's harder to be a number when you're starting out as a visitor. Cheltenham Girl. Clouds can't create the shapes they make or hold onto any rain. Precious, temporary, holding no domain. No machines, no cell phone or computers, clicking through broken links. Credit card, social security needed. She will refuse to register. She really would, too. Cheltenham Girl. Every day, another wish, another mile, closer to the point where I can portray it. Until then, all I'll do is sing to her spirit, and she will return. Here, lick the ceiling. Thank you. Talk to me. I'm in the open window. I'm not in time, but I've got your watch, and I need to learn how to play this white cello. Scratch the surface. I'm on the shore with a can of sugar. It's never bitter. I'd really rather be playing, though, because I like the white strings and the white bow. That's not her. That's her, was the simplest thing you said today. I'm still reeling with no moments except now. You don't possess any microscope, so instead I will take the telescope. I'm trying to be angelic, which isn't easy after getting desensitized with disappointments. Every night eating fresh vegetables while planning, well, you already know. And then you talk me out of it. You don't have a pistol in your waistcoat, your teeth aren't flecked with flax seeds, my misjudgments are my own, and most are unknown, and just because I'm a pacifist doesn't mean I'll let any dumb motherfucker abuse me. And speaking of myself, notice me! I'm standing next to the tree where the guy got out and crashed the stolen car and then ran for it, but I can behave for over 100 days, and I've squandered my efforts and so much goodwill that I sometimes still need to convince myself that I should try and take lessons to learn how to play it all, but I'm sure that you want me to, and I know what I can do. And with that, we're not missing anything. We're humming songs through the phone. We're midnight movers. We're holy rollers without a religion. No, we're not. And don't be the guy on the bike in the right lane racing for his life against rush hour traffic in the morning. I know you are, and you know that I care, and I feel like I'm Clark Kent all dressed up in primary colors, and I just haven't taken off my glasses yet. She said to me, as long as it's not evil, and I said to her, I cannot be evil. Certainly not right now, but it's the rising sun, it's a hard-boiled egg, it's basil, it's a blue charm. I just want to play the white cello. I just want to sit in a circle and think about it some more. So are we going to wrap this up? No, you're just testing people's patience. And no, I'm communicating out loud. It's warm communication. So that's what I'm talking about. So instead, we're going to change some channels. Quarters, nickels, and dimes, and all somebody that's supposed to be wearing a blue suit. Go to the slants and cut off and carve your slants. It'll be like a reverse safari where they put lions, cheetahs, and tigers in a truck and drive them around to show people shopping and walking down the street or pumping gas. It'll be the apex of manifestation. It won't be something that's in the Bible, but it'll be just like the Bible. And it'll be a suburban safari where some guy named Greg gives you a little pith helmet and plastic binoculars, and you can wait under his kitchen table for the cat to use the litter box. But why does it gotta be white? Never heard from before. Advertising spaces available. Clean, clear water. And of course, the tastiest tomatoes. All right. This is the last piece we're going to do tonight. We hope you've enjoyed this. Who's we? Well, all the good folks at Kazari Ego Graphics, and on behalf of Luke Peabody and Stickers, yeah. All right. A little technical nonsense. Sorry, fellas and gals, and everything else. We're we're into everything. More or less. This is called Rubber Buttons. Needs to be kept simmering, and time should flow slowly and quietly. Let's go! My shoelaces are undone, which means someone likes me as much as I love to see a basket of swimming snowflakes. My shoelaces are undone, so I throw them next to a trunk full of styrofoam tongues, and the person who brought them yells, "Thank you!" The first person in the castle has the obvious advantage if they wish to scrape their fingernails against century-old windows. They can concentrate vacantly while being unfailingly polite and insisting their hands are made out of the same sand as found outside on the beach. They know there is no joy in failure for their friends, and that the fun in restoration happens once the work is done. The second person in the castle has obvious ease with boldly seizing treasure only they can see through a fizzing camera lens. They can research quietly while having no qualms about their ambition outstripping their abilities and assessing gaudy antiques. They know there is no lemon rich enough in sourness to let their taste get challenged into swallowing insects in soiled tents. The third person in the castle has the obvious edge. When turning their profile to face the east in hopes of repairing a table leg, they can dutifully saw and sweep the dust into the bin until the bell sounds for them to begin slicing vegetables up in the kitchen. They know there is no creek deep enough to keep them from molding jellies into a series of perfectly semi-translucent wedges. I want brass buttons for my cousin. Because I could not count for cufflinks, they counted for me. Because I could not look for light bulbs, they looked for me. Because I could not dance for diamonds, they danced for me. They realized the chateau has the clear advantage as the place to evaluate flashy antiques. I want brass buttons for my cousin, but I make rubber buttons to wear for myself. While I sew, I look at the library and remember each of my most memorable finds. I want brass buttons for my cousin, but I make rubber buttons that I wear on my jacket. I buy the materials from the tan-toothed man who sold my mom a gold wishing box. I want brass buttons for my cousin, because when I preach with the collar, it preaches with me. I want brass buttons for my cousin, because when I move with the minnows, they move with me. They realize the chateau has the clear advantage when you're evaluating flashy antiques. Let's go! It's all right. My shoelaces are undone, so I only walk sideways and photograph a bum purple terracotta planter with a flag with a price tag sticking out of it. Though it's hard to know. My shoelaces are undone, which means someone likes me, as much as I love wearing an apricot ascot while hearing stories about Korean camping sites. The first person in the tower can brighten their senses by energetically exchanging sunglasses and hairstyles, one safely ensconced up at the top. They can cheerfully sing along with most anything, though they prefer Caruso and ragtime to songs they don't know. There is usually a fixed point in the distance for them to focus on things such as a helicopter or hawk taking off shortly after dawn. The second person in the tower can loudly shout, "How I love my girl!" which echoes back so overwhelmingly they can think that they're in a private booth. They can detect the scent of her shampoo in the wind and look down to see her looking up and running towards them. There is normally an iron staircase nailed in 40 years ago, which serves as the one modern addition to the edifice. The third person in the tower can tell endless jokes over dinner about the rabbits they saw nipping chocolate from their mother's open purses. They can wear a lei around their necks which contrasts sharply with their pinstripe sport coat and tartan flat cap. There is always a sauna where they can fall asleep underneath a slippery painting of their father all dressed up as a captain. My shoelaces are undone. They lay underneath the warmth of the sun. This is a true depiction, recited with excellent diction. Let's go. Now I recall other memories. From walking around the castle, the humidity kept at bay, clouds letting loose only hints of rain, and vines intertwining across each other, and each new flower that blooms, another gift for the dozens of bees in love with the newness of June. It's all on top of my eyes. The curious sage in an orange and brown dashiki, standing before a statue of the stripped Christ, arms open and hovering. All on top of my eyes, lithium batteries in between her teeth. She holds a screwdriver dipped in green paint as she walks over underground cables. All on top of my eyes, in between her toes. She staves off headaches with gallons of water and sleeping when she can. All on top of my eyes. The swells of excitement are just one continued drone. Close concert of ideals. Stretching fingers. You did a great job today. Devoted. Seriously. All on top of my eyes. One wonder. One today. And that, folks, is another exciting edition of the quarantine stream. We hope that you've enjoyed it. I certainly did. Hopefully next week you can hear Luke Peabody finally. And now we will have a quarantine stream theme. One more time. Beautiful. All right, folks. By the grace of God, we will be back next week. Until then, stay safe, stay smart, and stay free because you already are. Yeah, it's true. Thank goodness. All right, everyone. All right. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Bye. Bye.